Welcome to the Lotless Astrology channel. My name is Dabney and I'm an evolutionary astrologer. Today we're going to be talking about, very briefly, the overall themes for March, which is rather intense. If you've watched any other astrologers, you already know that. But there's a lot going on. And today is March 1st and Venus is going retrograde. So I'm just going to kind of talk a little bit about the quality of the energy of this time and what we can do to best work with it. If you are new to my channel, welcome. What we do here is we look at the cosmic energy and the planets and see how they can support us down here on planet Earth to live a more conscious and peace-filled life. So with all of the Aries coming into play in the month of March, the peace is not going to be the theme. Let's just have a little spoiler there. So just really quickly getting business out of the way. If you did not take my Revisioning Your Life in 2025 course, but you are still interested in it, there are no more live sessions, but it is still available for half price. So it's all about where is your north and south node, how Pluto moving into Aquarius impacts your life in the coming years, and how you can make the most of your own individualized personal gifts. So if you can't get an astrology reading with an evolutionary astrologer, or if I'm booked up, it's a really good way to kind of understand what you're here to do during this very tumultuous time that we live on Earth. So okay, let's just quickly talk about Venus moving retrograde today and what happened yesterday. So Venus was stationary direct in Aries yesterday. So Venus is relationships. Venus is our diplomatic function. Venus is everything that is beautiful. It's the things that we want and the things that we covet and we crave. And so Venus, often is about how we relate to one another. And the sign of Aries is a fire sign, and it is the first fire sign. It is spring. It is bold. It is out there. And I'm going to talk a lot up in this video about the shadow of Aries. But if you are an Aries or have Aries in your chart, we all have Aries somewhere in our chart. And understand that I am not criticizing you personally. So if you are, a triple Aries, just take what I'm saying and understand that every single planet has a shadow. And I think we really saw a very spectacular display of Aries' shadow yesterday, which is the bully. Okay, so like I said, every sign has a higher expression and a lower expression. And so when Venus in the early degrees of Aries is stationary direct, it's got a lot of power. Okay, so the relating function was doing a very Aries type thing. So what does that mean? What is Aries? Aries is springtime, like I said. And so Aries is about autonomy and the right to exist. It's about saying, I'm here. It's about declaring yourself. And so if we think about like the different signs and the ages they correlate to, Aries correlates to a newborn. It's kind of the start of the journey. It's declaring like, I need help. I'm here. Pay attention to me. You think of if you've had a child, they're not shy about getting fed. They're not shy if they're unhappy or uncomfortable in any way. And so the Aries dynamic is one of saying like, I'm here to survive and I will do anything it takes to survive. So Venus in Aries is kind of this combination that's a little uncomfortable because Venus is really about relationships. Like, how do we get along together? How do my needs get met while your needs are also getting met? But Aries is like, I want my needs met. I need to survive. I'm important. Me, me, me. That's what Aries is about. Now, why is Aries like that? Well, Aries is about the journey of learning courage. It is the initiation. If you think of the tarot, it's like the Fool card. I don't know if it's actually the Fool card, but like I think of that sort of initiation of like, I'm here, like declaring yourself to be somebody that deserves the attention and the support to get your needs met to survive. And that's, correlates with spring, right? Like think about the energy that it takes for the trees to regenerate leaves. So it's kind of like coming to life. And so the evolutionary purpose of Aries is really about coming up against obstacles and overcoming them. It's really about courage, but Aries isn't born with courage. Aries is born with a need to survive. And so courage is something that's learned by overcoming obstacles. Okay. So if we kind of understand that Aries, the me, or the central focus of what I want, combined with the more diplomatic function of, how do we get along? How do we compromise? How do we figure this out? Is something that I think was really on full display yesterday when Aries in Venus stationary was like out there in that press conference where there was just kind of this ganging up on another world leader. So Aries' shadow really is the bully. Because the bully is insecure. The bully is the one that feels like they don't have everything they need. And so they want to make others feel badly in order to make themselves feel good. So again, if you are an Aries, do not think that I'm saying you're a bully, but there is a shadow side of Aries that can be a bully. And part of that is that journey of finding courage and finding their own inner security where they don't feel the need to bully other people. So that kind of bullying on the world stage yesterday was very shocking. And I think for anybody who has been bullied, anybody who has been bullied by a group, anybody who has been systematically bullied by the patriarchy or, systemic racism, I think it was very triggering for a lot of people to see because you could see it in action. You could see people who are less than picking on someone who actually is, has the moral high ground, has has the integrity, has the thing that they need. So really interesting to watch that happen. So today, March 1st, Venus goes retrograde. Venus goes retrograde in Aries, and it will be retrograde for 40 days. And so it's not just about the collective and what's happening. We're all going to be experiencing this. So I'm trying to not just ramble, but give you really solid, clear advice. So I picked a few tarot cards and I kind of, did my own sort of like treadmill meditation to try to wrap my head around exactly what I think this is about. And part of it, well, also what was interesting yesterday too. I'm sorry, I'm such an ADD person. I bounce back and forth, but I know the people that watch my channel don't mind, and you can follow my disjointed thoughts, and you know that I am right there with you. And at the end of it all, I'm going to synthesize it and hopefully give you a good nugget of something you can use. But yesterday was also the economic boycott. And that was people stepping up and kind of saying, I'm willing to fight back with my dollars. And Venus also has to do with money and resources. And again, like luxury goods and like what makes us feel kind of comfortable and, what like all the nice things that we like to buy. That's Venus. Shopping is Venus. Okay. All that sort of Libra, Venus axis, Taurus, like all of that is, kind of about shopping. And when it was stationary direct, someone had organized this national boycott that did get a pretty good amount of traction about like, no, we're not giving you our money. Like that's over. Like we're going to take this day and show you that we have some power. Okay. Aries power, right? So anyway, that was an interesting thing that happened yesterday too, but now we're in retrograde season with Venus. And so part of the meditation that I was getting and the cards that I was drawing and things really had to do about pulling within on our resources and kind of understanding that this may be a season of austerity. And it may not be that fighting back austerity, it may be necessary austerity. So with Venus going retrograde, I'm not a predictive astrologer, as I've often said, but it's really hard to ignore the warning signs that we may be in trouble from a financial standpoint, with tariffs kicking in on March 4th, with inflation going up, with, the chaos, Wall Street, the markets don't like chaos. And then what happened yesterday is very destabilizing from a geopolitical standpoint internationally. So all of a sudden we have all of this like earth-shaking movement that I believe may culminate in some degree of a need for us all personally to take stock in what's actually important to us. What do we value? Where can we cut back? Where can we save? What should we... So it's an opportunity when it goes retrograde to actually reflect on that. Reflect on where have we had a shopping addiction? Where have we potentially just mindlessly bought things from Amazon because it's easy, it's cheap, your credit card's already loaded into your phone? I mean, I'm absolutely guilty of it. So I think there's a rethinking of that going on. I think that the combination of Venus retrograde in Aries, we're going to start to see the necessity of austerity, the necessity of cleaning out the clutter. And this isn't like organizing Virgo clutter. This is like, where do I clutter my own psyche? Where do I clutter my body, myself, through shopping and shop therapy and just mindless consumption? So I think there's something there that I think is very important. Mercury's going to go, I believe it's March 3rd, Mercury goes into Aries. And a little later in the month, it's going to go retrograde. And then on the 14th, we're going to have a lunar eclipse. And there's just a lot going on that's going to be pretty destabilizing. And at the very end of the month, Neptune is going to go into Aries. So it's eclipse season. So we're going to have two very major important eclipses. So, I will be doing videos on those. I'm going to be doing a longer video this week that should be up by mid to late next week about the Venus retrograde with another great astrologer. But just kind of to let you know right now that we're still kind of in this tail end of the Piscean letting go and the destruction, but Aries is coming. Aries is warming up. Aries is jumping in and starting to make her or his presence known. And I think yesterday was just like the first shot fired is what kind of comes to me. And that very much is like Aries energy. And so those two things that, really kind of to me embody that Aries and Venus energy was, the boycott, where people are sort of saying no, I've got power. I've got power to say no to what's happening. But then also that kind of hyena, jackal bullying based out of fear and insecurity, that can be incredibly destructive. And so those two things I think are glimpses of where we're headed. So, it's kind of a foreshadowing. But I also do think with Mars, I keep saying Mars retrograde because we just finished Mars retrograde. Venus retrograde and then Mercury going retrograde, both in the sign of Aries. I think we're going to really have a opportunity to examine the shadow. I think there's going to be a lot more of people seeing things for the first time. They're going to be seeing, and Venus is also about, Venus in Aries is about reflecting on your own individual journey. And how does your journey fit into this? So who is our allies? Who are our allies? Venus is our allies. Aries is isolationist. Aries is go it alone. Aries is Spartan. I'm a warrior. So this combination of energy is so uncomfortable and it's going backwards. And I think it's giving everyone in the country an opportunity to really think about what's real for us? Who do we care about? What do we value? Value is a big Venusian word. So values, very important. On a personal level, Venus retrograde in Aries can also mean relationship issues. It can mean people coming back into your life, like you may have broken up with someone and they come back into your life. And so there is sort of this like opportunity to see, like, was there something there that I missed? It may be an opportunity to clean up old garbage in a relationship. You know, Venus in Aries is also about like finding your own strength and your own voice in the relationship, not letting someone bully you or walk all over you. So if you have your natal Venus in Aries, that's part of the lesson that you're here to learn, is about how to find your own agency and be important in the context of a relationship. So relationship themes in general, on a more personal level, I think financial themes on a more personal level are going to be the things that we're going to be looking at over the next 40 days. And there's going to be a lot of opportunity to kind of re-examine this sort of over-the-top warrior, macho, you know, high impact male energy. The Astrology podcast did a 7-hour thing about Venus retrograde, which was actually really good and interesting. I didn't listen to the full 7 hours, as you can imagine, but I listened to as much as I could. And there was some really cool points about like women rising up during Venus retrograde in Aries. And the United States is having its Chiron return, and the Chiron is in Aries. So, you know, there's a lot of energy right now about addressing our old wounds and finding the courage to fight back. And then also, you know, like we said, there's a reevaluation of our relationships on the world stage and in our own homes and on a personal level. So this is not the time to throw the baby out with the bathwater. This is not the time to make really drastic decisions. It is a time of reflection. It is a time of cleaning out clutter. It is potentially a time of a little bit of austerity and like watching what you spend, because I think that there could be some shakeups in the financial markets. So again, not a predictive astrologer, but that is my gut. So, okay, that is my video for kind of the beginning of March, just to give you a little bit of what this energy is all about. You know, the story is unfolding before us. I want to leave you with this, that these liminal times between endings and beginnings, which is right where we're at, contain a tremendous amount of fireworks. And as I've mentioned many times in previous videos, there is so much changing of the guard that we don't know where it's going to shake out. And unfortunately, it could be years before we finally settle into the new normal. But there are so many things up right now, like the robot takeover and AI and, you know, Doge and like, you know, people losing their jobs and, you know, the hardships that causes, and then the complete dismantling of our government. You know, a lot of that stuff is just that Piscean endings. It's, you know, but all of a sudden we've got like new beginnings. We're seeing foreshadowings of what's to come, right? So we have the like, okay, so that was no longer in the news for a day, right? Like that's the first day that wasn't like dominating the news. And it was like this whole new world order where like we are realigning ourselves with people that we would have formerly cast as enemies versus and turning on our allies. And that is very destabilizing and scary, frankly, for many of us. And so there's that piece. And then there's also the piece of people being like, okay, financial power is potentially where we have some skin in the game, because a lot of this has to do with being co-opted by, you know, big money and the class consciousness. So I think that those are two themes that we're going to see, like a complete reshuffling of world allies and also like what is the financial implications of all of that, and then how do we find our own autonomy and take care of ourselves and potentially fight back in some way. So, okay, as always, there's a reason and a season for it all. I hope you are staying sane during this time. If you watch other astrologers, it's so funny. I watched another astrologer and it was like her Venus retrograde video was so like light and airy and about like relationships and it was so funny that like we all, I know the people that watch this are invested in what's happening from a very, international relations and political standpoint. So it's interesting like how people's filters are different. So I don't want this to be a super heavy video, but I just want you to be prepared and do the best you can to take care of yourself. I posted in my community another video that I really liked, and I have gone back to myself more than once about how to stay sane during this time. So, and then there's my hope video that I just did, which I can link to both of those videos in the comments, just to kind of give you some sort of grounding during this time, because we can only control what we can control. And that's the most important thing we understand, is we do have control and autonomy. And that's part of that Venus and Aries. But it's like, what kind of person do we want to be? Do we want to be the bully? Or do we want to be the hero, the protector, the loyal warrior that would stand up for our loved ones? And that's also Aries. So yeah, we have an opportunity to stand up for our allies this time, whether that's our neighbors or our best friend or our, our neighbors to the north. So, okay, there's a reason and a season for it all. And the universe is conspiring to help us. Stay strong, stargazers. Until next time.